What's good, fellow outcasts and other rejects? Welcome to WTC, the Anime Outcast. First off, if you're new here, we upload anime what-ifs based around My Hero and other shows like. Secondly, 80% of our audience is not subscribed. In order for us to continue to make good content, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Now without further ado, let's get into the video. Izuku surveys what's left of the poor town as plumbers begin to roll in. The village had been destroyed by 3 Omnitrix users, multiple time travelers, and who knows what else. Speaking of which, the non-Deku Omnitrix wielder stands frozen in a form our Izuku has never seen before. It has the rough shape of a human, with 3 horn-like tendrils on its head, but its body was nothing more than a black abyss filled with stars. A marvel, isn't he? The lab coat-toting man, Paradox, said beside Izuku, but he just gets a weird look from the green-haired boy as he gestures to the doctor to explain what he is. Ah, that's my friend. It's what's known as a celestial sapien, or what most commoners would call it, a god, the Time Walker explained, causing his companion to panic. Interesting. Most people speak of them as if they're myths. The Kochi exclaims to the pair as he cautiously approaches, along with another plumber. He looks upon Alien X with both awe and caution. Any second, he may emerge from his locked state. Oh, there's no need to fear, Detective. I'm afraid this version of Ben lacks the will needed to have any sort of control over this form. Paradox explains to ease the plumber, but only raises more questions, like who's Ben and what's stopping him from using this godly agent. But no answers would be given as the time-lost man grabs Izuku by the shoulders and ushers him into a newly created portal. Kochi tries to stop them from leaving the scene, reaching a hand out, though this attempt is in vain, as the two slip into the rift. The two emerge from the rift, appearing in a hospital room. The place is quite lonely and small, isolated from the rest of the ward. It takes Izuku a minute to cop onto where he is until he sees a particular person lying on the bed. In front of him is a barely alive Tinya Ida, hooked up to numerous machines. The boy cries a speechless name as he rushes to the side frantically. At first, Paradox watches on silently as Deku stares at Ida. When he starts fiddling with his timed-out watch, he knows he has to step in. Now, Midoriya, what do you think you're doing? He beckons, causing Izuku to pause for a brief second. What does it look like? I'm going to save him this time! He cries desperately, trying to get the Omnitrix to work, though it's still completely drained from its previous battle, leaving it useless. Paradox then tries to explain something, but he is cut off by the changeling. Shut up! I could do this! I'll go Hibiki and meld with him. No, I'll go overdrive, upgrading the machines! Deku at first yells, then entering one of his muttering fits, thinking of ways to change Ida's fate. The ageless man lets out a sigh before continuing to talk. This isn't why I brought you here. See, though before he could finish, the grieving boy roars back at him. Why bring me here? Is this some sort of sick punishment for failing to protect his arm thing? This causes Paradox to raise his voice, a dark edge coming from it. He explains to Midoriya that he didn't fail, but instead, he wants him to learn a lesson here. Then, with the volume of the room increasing, the patient awakens. Midoriya, is that you? The injured rookie questions, his words slurred. Panicked, Izuku turns his attention back to Ida, hastily, and starts exclaiming that he's here to save him. You've done more than enough. This one's on me. Afraid. The speedster croaks, putting on a somber smile while placing his hand on Izuku's shoulder. As he is hunched over the side of the bed, tears start streaming down the Omnitrix wielder's face, trickling down onto Ida's bed. As hard as he tries to force out words, none would leave his throat, only wails and groans. Though Ida notices something different about this Izuku, one thing he knew didn't have. That costume. It's perfect for you. Unfit for a hero like yourself. He croaks, seeing the new black and green suit Paradox gave Deku during the midpoint of this outlandish adventure. Then, he notices the Omnitrix had grown more around the boy, symbolizing something. I didn't see it at first. Now I do. All Might sees in you. Our class sees in you. Hero, come. The speedster finishes as he lays there, smiling at his friend. Then, Paradox moves beside Izuku, and to eat his bedside, sporting his own smile and ready to share the lesson he wants the hero to learn. If I let you change the past, what would separate me from those villains? You can't change history, Midoriya. Future is ever-changing, the Time Walker utters, giving Izuku an odd sense of closure. He dwells on the conversation for a couple of seconds before Paradox beckons him to leave via another portal. So he gives his farewell to one of his closest friends, with the tears still coming before proudly marching through the time rift. Two appear back in the destroyed city a mere second after they left. Right then, I'll get this heathen out of that form and back to his respective world. Best you and Sakochi get back to the UA place. They're probably looking for you. Paradox commands as he prepares the frozen god for departure. Just like that, Izuku Midoriya and Detective Sakochi board an incognito plumber vehicle and make their way to the main UA campus. During their drive, Izuku unloads question after question to the unready detective, but he's forced to say he'll answer all questions at a later date, as now isn't ideal. When the two reach UA, they head straight for the teacher's lounge, where Nezu and his Hero Corps staff are waiting. As Sakochi and Izuku enter, a deflated All Might jumps out of his seat and rushes over to his student. Young Midoriya, you're okay, the symbol cheerfully announces, relieved that the boy looks relatively unharmed. A collective sigh of relief resonates through the room, as most of the teachers are glad to see Midoriya back in one piece. But one teacher, Aizawa, isn't too concerned with the boy's safety. Instead, he's more interested in what the two have to say about what happened. My apologies for the exam interruption, but what you witnessed was simply a villain with a strange copying quirk and his accomplice. Though he looked like Midoriya, his quirk stopped him from becoming a perfect clone. We also need Midoriya's power set to catch the villain, which was approved by the police chief. Sleeper Agent explained to the teachers, mostly satisfying Eraserhead, but he still had one more question. When would Midoriya like to redo his practical exam? Wait now a second, Aizawa. I don't think that's necessary. Midoriya, did you catch the villain or what? All Might chimes in, thinking his fellow teacher to be a little too inconsiderate. Izuku then smiles, exclaiming that he did, in fact, catch the villain, mainly by himself. Technically. See, I think the kid's been through enough. That should be good enough for passing grade. All Might barters, gaining an intrigued eye from Nezu. Sat near enough to the conversation, but stayed silent. Being the principal, he allows it, seeing merit in it. Though this does irritate Aizawa to some degree, he also understands the logic. But they would still need to figure out something for Bakugo. Then, Sakochi excuses himself from the lounge, explaining that he has a lot of paperwork to do because of this case. As the officer leaves, Izuku runs out of the room and ahead of him, causing him to stop. Midoriya, is everything okay? Sakochi mutters before the Omnitrix hero bows to him, thanking him for covering up the truth from the teachers. This gets a humble smile from telling the kid not to mention it. With the exams now officially over, the students are given a couple of days of their summer break to relax before taking part in the training camp. During this time, a couple things would happen to Izuku, but we're mainly going to be brief with it, as we would be here for a long time if we didn't. First off, Sakuchi would invite him back to the Plumber base. Its hidden location is under a rundown hardware store. Once there, Sakuchi would get Izuku acquainted with all the prominent base members, which was not a lot. Despite having such a large area, the Earth branch of the Plumbers is hilariously understaffed compared to their Starside counterparts. But this includes two Galvans he met with the other Izuku, Blue Kick and Driba, then the Kashose that he briefly seen, who goes by Tetrax. The last one of note was another high-ranking plumber with the same species as Seke Sekuru. After introductions were concluded, they got to work with testing the Omnitrix, and therefore Izuku. So now, the watch had only been an urban legend among all aliens. Yet here it is, bonded to some random Japanese high school. So there was a lot of questions about it. This ranged from a simple showcase of his unlocked forms, to how much he knows about their biology. During this, Izuku would try to access the same setting as the Universe 10 counterpart did, but to no avail. He wasn't so fortunate enough to get an instruction manual with his watch. though he would gain valuable information from Tetrax about a few of his forms and now how to better use them in combat. Especially the 3 new ones with his watch accidentally locked. Throughout their training, Tetrax shows a keen interest in him. He sees him as more of an asset to the Plumbers, as he's knowing of the incoming war because of his advice. Later on, he will talk to Bakugo about his new knowledge of the Omnitrix. At first, the blonde refuses to believe Izuku is transforming into aliens of all things, writing it off as delirious. After that, a few canon events would happen with minor variations, such as Class 1A's trip to the mall wouldn't be spoiled by Shigaraki, leading to a much happier day for everyone. Secondly, Kaminari's scheme to get that part of 1A out of UA's swimming pool would happen, without Mineta, which still leads to the rest of the class joining in. The only noteworthy change here comes from Izuku using Suke Suru. That over with, we can move on to the next proper arc. The bus makes its way to the secret location for the Quirk training camp. Izuku spends most of the ride staring at his reformatted Omnitrix and its 3 new transformations. "Hey Midoriya, what's the story with the new watch of yours?" Hiroshima asks from the row behind him, peering over the seat. He gets a smile out of Deku as he explains it with a white lie. "Yeah, during the exam All Might bashed the watch a little too hard, and so did that Rhino guy, so I sent it back to my dad for repairs. Let's just say he gave it an upgrade on top of its fixes. We even got a few new forms to use," he explains using his father and Detronat excuse. Once the students reach the remote destination, they're greeted by a cliff and a massive sprawling forest covering the horizon. From here, a lot goes like in canon. The over-enthusiastic cat-themed hero, Pixie Bob and Mandalay, appear from seemingly nowhere. As the students are informed about their first training, most take a break with breaths, only to be forced off the cliff by Pixie Bob's earth-controlling Quirk. Once the students crash against the forest floor, they take a minute to recover and regroup. Naturally, some take longer than others, while some get straight to work. Deku gets to his feet rather fast and instantly goes to dial up Taru Inu, as he seems like the best for this situation. But something stops him from transforming, rustling in the near distance. Then, the slight rustle becomes more of a stomp as it gets closer and closer. Finally, from the endless abyss of the forest emerges a giant beast. Straight away, Koda goes to commune with the oversized animal, seeing him as a friend. But as he talks to the creature, Deku notices a hollow crack in one of its legs. The rock beast then goes to trample on the hero, known as Anima, who isn't fast enough to react. Thankfully, Izuku manages to transform into his yet unnamed Necrophrygian form and swoop in to save the other boy from harm. Once he finds a safer place to put Koda, he calls out to his 2 fellow students.
"Kachan, Todoroki, get ready to strike with my signal."
Then Izuku goes flying straight at the golem, his wings wrapping around him and spinning like a drill. He goes passing through the creature, encasing its torso and legs in ice. The signal being called, Bakugo roars that Deku could not order him around. As for Todoroki, he starts conjuring a flame around his arm. Half and Half Boy douses the beast in flame, giving Bakugo ample time to get close. From there, the Bombarder palms begin to ignite, hotter than usual as he unleashes a devastating explosion from about the golem. The beast is reduced to rubble, nothing more than a scattering of remains. Izuku lands next to Bakugo, wrapping his ragged wings around himself like a cloak, and gives him a thumbs up. Their work is far from over, as Jiro alerts the rest of the class that she can hear many more of those things coming. So this starts the students methodically crusade through the woods. Thanks again to the Outcasts and the Rejects for watching till the end of the video. If this video gets 80 likes in 2 weeks, we'll continue the series. Other than that, if you have any questions about the series, channel, sound off in the comments or feel free to join our Discord. And never forget, the secret to succeeding is